All right. So hello, everyone. My name is Natalia Batista, and I am one of the IWS Toronto co-leaders. And we, IWS Network, are very excited to have you here with us tonight to talk about leadership. So this quotation illustrates very well this topic. So leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. And while we meet today on a virtual platform, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land which we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to enhance our own understanding of local indigenous people and their cultures. So from coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. So please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and also to consider how we are and how each of us in our own way can try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. So our agenda for today includes a brief introduction on our IWS network, and we will allow the panelists to speak in an open table format in which they will be able to address the questions that we have brought together as a group. And after that, we will open the floor for the general public for questions that we may want to ask to our panelist speakers. And we would like to remind you that in the end, we will have a breakout rooms that we have designated for this meeting, in which we will have the opportunity to network with the panelists and also other attendees. And some of our housekeeping items. So please mute yourself if you're not talking, and video on is great, but it's okay if you prefer not to. And feel free to tweet live about this event and tagging IWS Network. And also know that this meeting will be recorded and the screen snapshots will be taken. So first, I want to give you a brief introduction about our organization. So IWS have started in 2018, and we have leaders from all over Canada. And we are here to build a collaborative network that supports and promotes equity, diversity, and inclusion of immigrant and international women from STEM backgrounds in Canada. And our mission is to create awareness about the challenges immigrant and international women face throughout their careers, thereby promoting network and professional opportunities. And as part of the empowerment efforts from IWS Network, we believe that promoting leadership skills will enable our members to actively participate in important decision-making process in their workplaces and also their communities. And we are very active in the social media, so please feel free to follow us and also to contact us on our social networks. And Slack is our main networking platform where we hope all members across Canada can connect. And also, if you want to learn more about us and about the network, we are more than welcome to visit our website, where we have all the information about our events, our programs, and also our teams. So now I'm going to leave the floor for Anjana, that's another IWS co-leader, to introduce the panelists that we have tonight for our discussion. So please, Anjana.
Thank you, Natalia. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this event. I'm here to introduce our panelists and moderators of this event. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Anjana Govindarajan. I'm one of the moderators of this event. I work as a strategic business consultant. I'm a national leader and co-chair for the fundraising committee at IWS Network, and I'm also a co-leader at GTA IWS Network. I would like to mention a quote by Marie Curie. Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. Today, We have all gathered here to learn and understand how to bring out the leader within us. Now I would like to welcome and introduce our panelists to this event. I would like to start with Ines. Ines Fernandez is currently a director of advanced analytics at the Toronto Stock Exchange, looking for partnership and acquisition opportunities. Ines is an industrial engineer from the University of Toronto and an MBA from the University of Oxford. Previously, she has held a variety of roles in banking in Toronto and London, UK, including trading, sales, and technology. On behalf of our IWS network and audience present here, I would like to welcome Ines on this platform. Great to have you today on this platform. Welcome, Ines. I'll move to Keda. Keda Edwards Pierre is a Renaissance woman who inspires life change as a life business coach, inspirational speaker, and founder of True to Soul Network. A 27-year police veteran and retired by her mid-40s, Keda shares uncanny insights, useful tools, and empowering guidance as a business leader, visionary, a contributor to Forbes, and founding member of Immigrant Women in Business. While walking the powerful talk of leadership, diversity, equity, and inclusion, Keda is on a mission to empower, guide, and support many people in optimizing their full personal and business potential. Again, on behalf of our IWS network and audience present here, I welcome you, Keda. Looking forward to have a great discussion today. Let me welcome Luanys Villate. Luanys Villate is a seasoned sales and business professional with an emphasis in science, an enthusiastic polymath with a desire to help women and girls that are interested in discovering or pursuing careers in STEM. Again, on behalf of our IWS network and audience present here, I would like to welcome you, Luanys, and we are happy to have you on this panel today. Now I would like to introduce our moderators of this event who are working for this event since past 2 months. Let me start with Natalia Batista. She was the one who did the introduction of this event today. Natalia Batista is an IWS Toronto co-leader and co-chair of Communications and Marketing Committee here at IWS. She is currently a research associate in the Department of Immunology at the University of Toronto, and she studies memory T-cell responses during viral infections. She is originally from Brazil, and she has moved to Canada in 2017 when she started her postdoctoral training. Welcome, Natalia. Now let me introduce Maria Zawala. She will be moderating the panel discussion today. Maria Zawala is an industrial engineer and holds an MBA and a Master in Science and Engineering Management from Florida International University in Miami, Florida. Maria's experience is in data and business analytics and has been involved in projects managing assets from $300,000 to $1.2 billion. She serves as Treasury Co-Chair and also in the IWS National Leadership Board. Maria, welcome, and please take the floor for the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjana, for all that, and welcome everybody again. The way that we're going to conduct this is that we're going to ask our panelists a few questions related to leadership to get their impression and to get their advice and experience. So I'm going to start by asking a couple of questions to them, and I will invite you all to put your questions on the chat if you have any for them. We're going to pick some of them because of time constraint. We're going to, respond some of them, but we invite you to please ask the questions that you think are relevant for you to advance your leadership, journey. So we're going to start right now with the first question right away. So to our panelists, the research shows that women score higher in leadership skills than men. This was, as one of the facts found in the Harvard Business Review. In spite of this, there are still some factors that continue to create barriers for the women to actually gain leadership positions. In your experience, which do you think is a barrier that is very persistent? And what would you advise in order to overcome that barrier? Let me start with Keda to get her impression on that.
Thank you very much, Maria. Now, I come from an occupation that's heavily dominated by men in policing and entered into another area that's also seen to be very heavily dominated by men in business, running my own corporation, my own business. I would say that policing taught me well. It taught me that learn the game if you want to play the game. You have to learn what the rules are, so you can understand which ones you want to break, which ones you want to make, and which ones you want to bend. Also identifying the movers and shakers. You know, it serves no one, especially not myself, to sit and lament continually. This is so hard. This is what's happening. These are people who are making things difficult for me. What I learned is I had to figure out what I want to get done and identify who, what, where, when, why, and how I will get that done. That expenditure of energy serves me much better. It serves my goals much better. And the way that I with my clients, the way that I create an analogy, a comparison is, you know, how many of us in here drive in this workshop? When we're driving, we need to focus on where we're going. We keep our eyes at the front, we look to the rear view mirror, we look to the side view mirrors to have an idea of what's around us. Right? So if you bring that analogy to our everyday living at work, in business, wherever it is that we are trudging along, we focus on what our goals are. We have to have clarity as to where we're going. We look to the rearview mirror to see what we left behind, who's behind us, who's at the side, what obstacles there are, but we just glance there. Most of our attention has to be on the goal, the 5 W's and the H of how we're going to get there. And we just give glances every now and again. So just to recap what I said, we have to figure out our 5 W's and H, have clarity of our goals, figure out who can help us get there, and expend our energy to that progress, not to lamenting why it cannot work.
Maria, you're on mute.
You know, I was not supposed to. Thank you for that. Ines, let me go now with you. What is your experience on the barriers that women face to get into leadership, and what would you advise them to overcome that barrier?
Yeah, so hard to follow, Keda. I love that energy, and I agree 100% with her. I would say that another barrier that it's getting better, so positive, it's getting better. Especially for me, coming from an engineering background and in trades, in trading, sales, and in technology, where female leadership, right? Female leaders are not as visible. That was getting better. There are more women in I guess, leadership positions, but there aren't, at least when I was through my early career, there weren't many. So what I would recommend is find sponsors. They don't have to be women. They can be men. There are lots of men that are allies that will help you, that are like invested in helping young professionals to advance their careers. So find sponsors, find mentors, build relationships within your groups, within your teams, but also outside, right? And how can you do that? At work, there might be some committees for like that. There's so many ways of like extracurricular activities, even at work. So when you're doing that, you're meeting people from other areas, you're getting perspective, you're understanding the culture beyond your team. And don't leave it at that, right? Once you find a sponsor, a mentor, someone that you really work with that can help you with your career, can go with questions, they don't have to be your manager, right? It could be someone else. Once they leave the organization, follow them, right? Have like coffee once a year and ask questions. Whenever you're looking for a new role and you're nervous to ask your manager, go to them, right? And ask, is this something that you would do? What would you recommend? So I personally have 2 male sponsors that I've known for years, that I'm always running ideas by them in terms of my career. So that's my suggestion.
Pretty awesome. Thank you so much. You know, we have so far the clarity and then also have a sponsor. Luanys, in your case, you know, you all three are in very competitive fields and male-dominated. So in your case, what would you say is a barrier that you have faced, and how would you advise to overcome that specific barrier?
Well, I would say that the barrier that I face and that I see across the board and is very common is that because we're women, we may not know as much. So what is my what I think is the most powerful tool, at least has worked for me, is to kill them with knowledge. Definitely, you use irrefutable facts, good practices, your experience on the matter, and you have to demonstrate using all that you can actually execute what you're talking about. You know, you're not only talking the talk, but walking the walk. So especially in a science-based area, there's nothing more powerful than facts, right? So we all go by facts and the latest information. So for me, that's been something that I live by. You know, you kill them with knowledge, with your knowledge and your expertise, and there's no way they can get around, you know, facts. And so that's my 2 cents on the topic. You know, it's definitely it's worked, and I think it works in many scenarios. And with that, you sort of you know, you bring down that wall that you don't know, that, you know, it gets rid of the emotion of the situation, because also we're labeled as emotional, and that no, facts aren't emotional. So concrete practices aren't emotional, and yeah, so this is what I would tell everybody out there. Yep.
Thank you so much for that. You know, all three answers were really relevant. I think that will resonate with many of us in our experience. So, you know, I appreciate that you were very straightforward with your answer. So we're gonna go to the second question that I have that is related to communication. We actually have, like, beforehand some questions, and many are, you know, revolve around communication. Because that's the way that you are perceived first, right? When you communicate your ideas and your plans. So what has been a key in your communication style to convey the message? And when you share the vision that you have, in this case, let me start with Ines. You are heading a department, and then you know, you need to communicate to a specific team, as you're saying, in a very highly male-dominated field. How is your communication style? How you go around, you know, sharing your ideas and sharing your vision?
Yeah, so actually, let me start that answer by letting you know that one of the first things I've done in my career is actually understand my strengths, and just, I think self-awareness is very important. So I know that I am the collaborative type, right? And both communications slash leadership style. I like influencing others by actually being collaborative, hearing everybody's opinions, and having my team have a say on what that idea that we want to develop is going to look like, is going to be like. I'm very open to pivoting. I know I'm not always right, so I like to hear from many people. Now, it sometimes doesn't work. It's not a rule. I'm not saying everyone is the same. That's me. Some others, it's also important to understand how others perceive you. In my case, someone who's so collaborative, so flexible, might seen as non-assertive. So you have to be careful with that if you're someone like me. But just being aware that someone might look at me in that way just helps me to tweak the ways that I communicate, right? So I always suggest do a self-awareness test or a strengths test, and understand yourself, be yourself. Don't change for others, but be aware of what's going on or how others perceive you.
Pretty good. That's a very good recommendation. It's aligned with the resources that, you know, we'll tell you about later on. Now I want to continue with Luanys. Luanys, you are in sales fields, which, I invite you and envy you, because I think that's a great skill to have, like how you sell things, sell yourself, like that's awesome to have. So what is your communication style when you want to, communicate either what you want to offer to other people, what you envision about a situation or a product? Like, how's your communication style related to leadership, taking a leadership spot?
Well, for the most part, my communication style can be viewed as enthusiastic. So I'm very upbeat. And what I find that works in many scenarios, and especially when you're in business and when you're in selling, is to find points of connection. So this immediately opens up, more conversations, and there's a familiarity that can happen between those that you want to communicate with. So I think that is important, and also finding a way to be approachable. Sometimes, for whatever reason, you can be viewed as unapproachable. And so breaking down those barriers, and letting yourself be viewed as someone that anybody can come and talk to and find common points, of interest, common points to connect over. I think that helps a lot in sales, but it also helps a lot to build an atmosphere of trust and comfort. And that's the best atmosphere that you can have when you want to communicate effectively. So people will not be intimidated or not be afraid, or won't hold back on talking to you about any topic, however delicate they may be, or however embarrassing they may be. And this is speaking, when you have a team and somebody is afraid to tell you they made a mistake, or whatever the case may be. So having that not perception, knowing that your team views you as approachable, and anybody views you as approachable, it just opens up the floodgates for communication. And that brings benefits. Yeah.
That's a great advice that we can implement actually right away. Being approachable is always very useful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Keda, in your case, you're a founder, but you're also a life and business coach. So people will look, for advices from you. So communication to you is key. How would you define your communication style? How your communication help you to achieve this leadership position that you're into?
Well, I would say what's been helpful for me in all of my endeavors is my willingness to be intuitive, to allow my intuition and my creativity to be at the forefront. Many times people would say, oh, you can't talk about that. Men talk about the hinky feeling, or they'll say, my gut told me this. And I say, no, it was my intuition. And I follow and trust my intuition. My life events and life, everything that I've experienced has taught me that I must trust what my intuition tells me. It's always right. And oftentimes we as women were taught to have to use different words to explain ourselves or to justify. I try, or I think maybe, or I really feel that, nothing assertive. And so my communication style is very engaging. I allow myself, especially in this age, to talk about the intuition, my feeling, that my thought process that this is what's right. And I stand behind it. I'll tell you that many times I would have my male counterparts say something that was so dead wrong. I mean, Luanys, you talked about, being knowledge-based and giving the facts. And I would see someone give the most profoundly erroneous information with such confidence that people would be like, that's right. I'd be like, no, that's wrong, right? So what sold it was their confidence, their willingness to step out and say, this is the way it is. And then if they're wrong, they, you know what? I was wrong. This is the way it is. but somehow that's more acceptable in men. So what I do is I simply, I stand with confidence on what it is that I put forward. Even if people cannot see it, I make sure that I can see it. And that's why clarity is so key, because when I have my clarity, the confidence comes through in what I say. Now, if I'm wrong, it's also very important as a leader to take ownership, take responsibility for it. And when I don't know something, to acknowledge that and say, I don't know, but I will find out. I often tell people, my staff, people with whom I work, I'll let them know that sometimes I'll be asking questions to which I already know the answer. And what I'm looking for is insight into the people that I'm dealing with. If that person can be honest about not knowing, if they actually know what they're talking about, it's my assessment tool. So getting down to my, what is communication to me, my definition of it is communicating with others. And someone just asked down in here, Katarina, I believe, asked about what the distinction is between female and male leaders. I would say that we are awesome communicators and we're socialized to be allowed to do that. Men have to be kind of shut down a lot with things. They have to have that brooding, I'm thinking about it, silence is strong type of thing. We're actually allowed to communicate. Sometimes less words is better. And I don't always conform to that because I can be very verbose, but I find that sometimes silence can speak as loudly as words, and learning these different techniques can be a very powerful tool in communication.
Thank you. I appreciate all three answers because something that I can perceive is that, it's coming really out of you. It's something that you live on. I can perceive that you actually live to your words. So, that's awesome. Right now, we're going to move to pick some questions from the audience because we really want to, know from them. And there were some questions that, because of the time that we have, the time frame that we have, are not going to be picked. But remember that we're going to head to breakout rooms where we're going to have a smaller group, and we can take some of those questions that were not, answered here for the discussion. So please just continue with us. And right now I'm going to pass it to Anjana, which she will be the one asking the questions from our audience. Thank you to all.
Thank you, Maria. We have quite a lot of discussion going on in the chat, and this is really good. And thank you, Keda, for answering Katerina's question. And there are specific questions to panelists, and there is one question specific to Ines. So if Ines wants to take up this question, I would like to ask you. This is from Neda. This question is from Neda. How did you find your sponsors? If you could share some ideas, would be great.
Yeah, so yeah, no problem. It's actually funny enough. I think Luanys mentioned this before. Sometimes you find common, hobbies or something in common that has nothing to do with work. My mentors and sponsors, we tend to like music and play music. So sometimes you just it happens organically. At least with me, it happened organically, where I work with someone who happened to love music, and I kept this conversation, and then we part ways at work, but I kept asking, hey, can you, what do you think about this? And sometimes it's just organically, in your team who is that person. But also there are mentorship programs, right? Sometimes you just sign up for a mentorship program, find someone that you really hear this person is really awesome. Can we continue having this mentorship on the side without the I guess structure? So that's another way of. I also have mentors that I continue talking to, and I have mentees who I continue talking to. So it's both ways sometimes. I hope that helps.
Thank you. We have a few more questions. So this is for this is from Jacqueline, and any one of you can pick this to answer. Has anyone been in a situation where it was another woman holding you back, and how did you deal with this? Who wants to take this question?
Just to make sure, go ahead.
Repeat the question, please. I want to understand it a little.
Sure. Has anyone been in a situation where it was another woman holding you back, and how did you deal with this?
So if I may, what is really interesting, especially when you're in a male dominant field, that there's so few women around that sometimes it feels like, should all be on the same page or working together. So it's a few decades that I've been in that field. And so there was a lot of change that I encountered. There was a time when we all tried to be almost man-like in the way that we did things in order to be able to get the job done, to be taken seriously. And every once in a while, there would be we call them PW, a police woman, that would come along and actually tear down other women in order to be accepted by the men. And that's not something that's unique to policing or unique to any industry. I think it's pervasive across the board, that you may have someone who just sells out another woman in order to gain some kind of, progress. The way that I've dealt with those situations, which I encountered many times, was to start off by having a one-on-one with that person. My stance is I don't believe in rumor mongering. I don't believe in talking behind people's back. Again, I spoke at the beginning about conserving my energy to my progress. And so the fastest way for me is to speak directly with the person that I'm having an issue with. Sometimes that worked, just having a one-on-one, making sure my emotion was dealt with. So I do not engage in an emotional state. I allow the emotion because I think we have a right to emotionally react to anything in our lives. They're there for a reason, but I do not engage in conversation with a person when I'm in that state. So if that didn't work, which sometimes it didn't, in those circumstances, I would let them know that this is my boundary and I will not allow that to be crossed. And then I would actually seek out an avenue in order to address the situation. I actually, in circumstances where I had to do that, I went to someone who was above that person. And when that is necessary, I'm very particular about who I approach in that circumstance, because I will not subject a sister to some kind of misogynistic or some kind of, discriminatory behavior from a male supervisor. So I was very particular about who I went to, who may be in another rank, in order to deal with that person. And if that didn't work, I escalated. I'm one of those persons, I'm very persistent. I'm very stubborn. That's why I've gotten where I've gotten. And if there's something that's impeding me, I do not rest on it. I believe that worthiness is one of the most basic lessons that we need as businesswomen. Oftentimes we do not feel worthy to get that success. We think that somehow they deserve it. They're gifted. They have something more. No, my stance is what I want is what I get. And if someone is somehow impeding that, I have a discussion first, a discussion, escalated discussion next. If that doesn't work, then I bring it up. I bring it up until, I get what I want. So.
Yeah, and if I may add quickly, actually, this has happened. I agree with Keda. Like it happened to me actually twice with the same, like early in my career. And the first time I didn't know what to do. I was like very junior. I didn't know what to do. I sucked it up. I made me miserable. Like it was a horrible experience until this person left. The second time I had learned my lesson. So just like Keda, I talked one-on-one. That did not work. And I escalated. And chances are you're not the only one feeling that way. So when I escalated, I wasn't the only person who had the same opinion, right? So chances are you're not the only one. So whoever is the recipient of your complaint will be like, it's okay, I know about it, and we'll solve it. So I hope that helps you.
Wow, great. Luanys, do you want to add something to this?
Maybe selective memory. I don't remember a time. It must have been incredibly uncomfortable that something like that happened. But I certainly do share the opinion that this is the way to approach it. First, you go one-on-one, and then if there's you can solution, then you need to escalate, but I'm totally with Keda that you have to know who to escalate, to, because that's actually crucial. Some people will brush it off. Some people, that's not my problem. It's a hissy fit from you to, no. You need somebody that will understand the situation and that can actually be helpful, not, make it worse. So that would be definitely the steps that I would take as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So it's always worth to have a dialogue. So yeah, I pretty much agree with all of you. We have quite a lot of questions, and we have questions from Eventbrite as well. So our audience, while registering, they have asked few questions. So before that, I just want to add one more question from today's audience. How do you recognize the right corporate culture and sector that allow your creativity to develop and grow? This is from Tina. So who wants to take this first?
I can take this question. I do a lot of research. I try to ask if I know someone or know someone that knows someone about my really bad. I don't know. I'm really, so what I do is research, the reputation and the happiness and how comfortable employees are there. That's the first thing that I do. If you're looking for a position, if you want to move into another position, you might go to Glassdoor or wherever. Maybe that's not really accurate, but I think the best way is sort of trying to make a connection with somebody that has been in the industry or in the particular company that you're interested in, and try to find some insights. Also, a lot of corporate websites are very helpful. You can see if you identify with their mission and, with their purpose. So that would give you an idea of how permissive they would be of allowing you to be creative, and things of that nature. So it would give you an idea. It's sometimes really hard to gauge, and that until you're there in the company and you're like, oh, but if you do a little bit of your homework, you'll probably be able to uncover what, signs and answers to your questions, and that will help you identify where, what's the way that this company conducts business and how they treat their employees, and what would you be allowed to say and do, and all of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, if I can follow, 100% agree with Luanys. I do that, and I do that always, not even when I'm applying for a job. I always like to know what the culture of my competitors is like. But you also have the opportunity when you are interviewing, you have the opportunity to ask questions, right? And this is, you're also interviewing your interviewer, and you can ask things like, if it's a job, is this a job because somebody left or because it's a newly created job? If somebody left, why do you think this person left? You can ask questions about what is your vacation policy, what is your flexible hours policy. I personally check their mat leave. Even I don't have kids. I don't have no plan to have kids anytime soon. But knowing their parental leave, their parental leave and benefits kind of tells you what kind of culture it is. Because if they don't have it, then there's a red flag. Right? So that's something I always ask questions in an interview. This is your chance to also figure out the culture.
Keda, do you want to add something to this?
Absolutely, sure. I did type something in there in response to that. When it comes to corporate culture and sectors. And I think it also depends on what role you're entering that arena. As a leader, I determine what the corporate culture is going to be. Because I'm founding it. And so there was a time when I did begin where we borrow from various places to construct what we do. That's just the nature of our humanity. We think we're always original, but we're actually turning things over and over in different ways through our unique filters. So as I was looking around trying to decide what I wanted, I thought maybe mimic this because I wanted that effect, or I'll mimic that because that's what I want. And I finally learned that what I want is what I need to create. What is important to me is what I can most authentically or genuinely create in a corporate culture. Everything else becomes almost fake. If I see something and I just want to mimic it, then people won't believe me anyway. But when I'm doing something that I believe in, we have tenets for True to Soul. It's passion, integrity, social consciousness, quality of service and product. And it's really important to me. Those things are important to me because of what I want when I go out there. So people believe me in my corporate culture that those are important, and they stand by it because they see me stand by it. So as a leader, if you're entering into a corporate culture, creating your own thing, you decide what you need in order to have a safe and creative environment. If you're entering into somebody else's space and you have a management position, a leadership position, I heard it mentioned, yes, learn the rules, learn the ground rules, but learn it so you can decide what you want to maintain, what new rules you want to create, and what rules are bendable in order to express yourself creatively. If you find that there's a kind of oppressive atmosphere, I call it a toxic atmosphere. It's really important to, again, find the clarity on what is it that's going on. Is this something personal? Am I projecting something, or is this real? And if it's real, then find that person that we've heard mentioned already, that key person that has an influence on that environment, and make recommendations. Always come prepared. I don't believe in whining. I don't believe in complaining for the sake of complaining. If I see something that's wrong, I want to create something in my mind that is a solution for it, or something that I can recommend, because guaranteed that leader or that manager that you go to say this is wrong will probably ask you, I would ask, what do you suggest? So come prepared with that if you're looking to create something that's influential in creativity. And I always feel that we have an influence, no matter what our role is. We have the capacity to contribute to change in an environment. So even when we're in one that may be toxic, we can contribute either positively or negatively to that environment.
Wow, what a great discussion. Yeah, I really like, I have to stop at some time asking questions, but my heart is not letting me stop. Yeah, we have a very interesting question. How would you do self-assessment as a leader? This is from Anju Bajaj. Yeah, who would like to take this first? Keda.
What was the question? Sorry.
Yeah. How would you do self-assessment as a leader?
Oh God, okay. I can briefly take that one first. Like I mentioned that the self-assessment, there's lots of self-assessment tools out there. But that's like usually very theoretical, right? Like they ask you a bunch of questions and they give you, oh, you're this personality, you're not. It's very important to me to do that because it tells me who I am from another perspective. And there are like Myers-Briggs, DISC, Facet 5, Strength Finder. There's some of the tools, and that will inform you how you are. But that's the theoretical part. The other part is actually asking your team, and I am very honest, I'm very blunt when I'm talking to my team, and I always ask for feedback. So it doesn't make you less of a leader when you're asking your team for feedback. So that to me it's always been very important, like feedback up and down, right? So I think that that's helped me for my self-assessment.
Yes, I'd like to add to what Ines said. It's a bit of like gauging the climate, you know, is your team happy? Is your team engaged? So those things are strong indicators of how well, let's put it that way, you're leading, right? It gives you an indication. There's always room for improvement. So if, again, opening those communication channels and they have the trust in you and they feel comfortable telling you what you can improve on, then what better feedback than the people that work closely with you. So I think that that's one of the ways of self-assessing, you know, your leadership.
Yes, I agree with all of that so much. And I find it so key. Like that self-assessment, that groundedness is fundamental to how people respond to us in our environments, especially when we're leading. I have a 5-point checkup. I call it my ABCs. So, you know, first of all, before I get into that 5-point, just that connection with people, that's one of our bonuses as females. We're actually taught and encouraged to connect with others. And sometimes it's diminished in business, but it's fundamental. Any person that's successful, you'll know that they have a pulse, whether it's directly or through another person, a manager that they have in place, they have a pulse on what's really happening, as opposed to having their head in the clouds and pretending like everything is happy, happy, joy, joy. Meanwhile, people are miserable with the boots on the ground. So speaking of boots on the ground, I'll get into the 5-point checkup that I do, the ABCs, alignment. I really have to check in with myself every once in a while to make sure that I'm still aligned with my original why, my 5 W's and my H for actually doing the work that I did. It was true of me when I was a police officer, and it's true of me now as a coach or as a founder of the network, True to Soul Network, that I am still operating with the same why. And if I'm not, I need to reassess so that I'm still aligned. Because if we're not aligned, if we're incongruent, people know it. People inside the business, the corporation can feel it, and people who are watching can see it. So, you know, our business is actually it's an extension of ourselves. It's our passion. We were taught that they're supposed to be separate, and home is different, or our internal landscape is different from our business or external landscape. It's not true. They're very connected. If we do not have a healthy internal world, then the business and whatever endeavors we pursue are contaminated with that. So my responsibility is to keep everything, mind, body, and soul, aligned and in check. Boots on the ground. I really feel it's important to remember where I came from, always, personally and professionally. You know, I feel like we're talking with different generations. There was a time when you had to hide certain things, you know, whether it's traumas that we've been through, where I've come from, accents, all these things, you know, cultural, traditional things that were important and are important. And I feel like we're finally reaching an age, ladies, where this is our juice. This is our like essence, bring it. And someone asked down here about, you know, it's tough for immigrants and people who migrate to different countries to find jobs, and what do we do? I think it's really important for you to carry where you come from, stay connected, stay aligned with it, stay boots on the ground with it, because we're in an age where it's not acceptable. It's not to say that it's still easy. I'm speaking as a Black woman, okay? I'm 5'5", okay? 5'4" really, but I kind of stretch myself up there, right? So we take all of this stuff with us when we enter a room. Don't hide it. Because what happens is that the judgment, the racism, whatever sexism is there, won't disappear because we're trying to hide aspects of ourselves. In fact, it gets bigger, it gets stronger, because they're judging, and then they're saying they don't even have confidence in themselves. Look at them trying to hide. Look at her, you know, da 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 da. And that's true. I don't care if we're talking about gender, race, whatever. Wear it with pride. Wear it with pride. Remember where you come from. Remember your why you're doing what you're doing. Let that infuse you, because that will bowl people over. I believe that what's meant for us cannot be taken away by any human being. What is meant for me, I do with 150%. And if it doesn't happen, I know that it wasn't meant. Not because I didn't try hard enough, because I gave it my all, but because it wasn't meant. And then I have my 3 C's: communication, care, and creativity. So communication we spoke about already. It's very important. Self-awareness, clarity is very important to have very clear communication with myself and others. And caring, you know, we can't fake that. We can smell fakeness from a mile away. And especially when we're coming from our backgrounds, you know, having life experience, we could smell it. Sometimes we have to stick around because we have stuff we need to do, but other times we're just like, no, I don't want any of that. As a leader, we have to be very careful not to fake that stuff. If we're not caring, then we need to reevaluate what we're aligned with. And the creativity, someone mentioned the creativity, growth and expansion cannot come without creativity. And that's another bonus that we bring as women. We're well in touch with that aspect of ourselves because we are allowed to, you know, so that's one of our bonuses. That's what we bring to the table. And so when we're doing a self-assessment, check in with what allows you to be creative. If it's walking in nature, do it. If it's meditation, do it. If it's gardening, yes, I'm a gardener, do it. Whatever it is, going for a bike ride, put that in your day. It's not an option. Self-care is not an option. It's actually fundamental to leadership.
Wow, amazing.
Sorry
Yeah.
to bother you, Keda. Can you just elaborate one more time? What is ABC? I really enjoyed that one.
Sure,
Yeah.
no problem. A is for alignment. A is alignment, meaning, you know, you're still, your 5 W's and H, that you're still in alignment with the same 5 W's and H. Sometimes that changes from beginning to end. B is boots on the ground. So making sure you remember where you've come from personally and professionally. And the C's are care, creativity, and communication. So communication, making sure you're clear, making sure you have good self-awareness. Creativity, making sure you're doing what's necessary for your creativity to flourish. And caring, don't fake it. You know what, you have to take care of yourself, take care of your staff through staff development, and take care of your business through business development. If you don't care about those things, that will shine through.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. I hope I find some write-up about that one. I really want to implement that. It's like easy to remember ABC and easy to explain too, because this question been asked so many times when you go for the interviews, and how would you assess yourself? And it's so easy peasy to say, okay, I follow ABC kind of thing too. So you can, that's kind of easy to understand for people too. I'm really enjoying your talk. Thank you so much, people.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll put a link in there as well.
Thank you very much, Keda. Yeah, I hope all are enjoying this conversation. Because of time constraint, we cannot ask all the questions, but I request our audience to take these great questions in the breakout room and have a good discussion with our leaders. So now I will pass on this floor to Maria.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Those questions were like very interested, and the answers were even more helpful than we can imagine. So again, as a time constraint right now, we're going to head up to different breaking rooms. But first of all, I have good news for everybody. Ines, Keda, and Luanys were very kind to share some resources for us to share with you. And those include the assessments and the ABC from Keda, and also some books and some other pointers for you to access. So stay till the end. We're gonna give you some instructions of how you can assess a summary of all this information that they were so kind to give us. So you can have them after we will send that after the event for today. So right now, we are going to head into breakout rooms. The way that is going to happen is that you will receive a communication saying to join a specific room. You will be assigned to a specific room. On that room, you're going to be for around 8 minutes. After that time, you're coming back to the main room again, and then you're going to a second room. So you will have 2 rounds of networking here. And, there are some great questions that were left because of the time again. Just let me kind of go a little bit over some of them. So that could be some points that you might want to discuss in the room. For instance, the distinctions to be available, to flexible, to creative, and how can we being perceived as being more receptive and approachable? One of the advices was to be more approachable. How can we achieve that? That was one of the questions left. Another one is like, how can you be a good leader if you're soft-spoken? Like we have seen like the tremendous confidence and like how well-spoken are our panelists. So, you know, not all of us are like, you know, that put forward. So if you're soft-spoken, like, you know, can you still be perceived as a good leader? Also, how do you find that like there's some more support for men than for women? Like how you overcome that, you know, when you don't have it, let's say on your way. And some things that were also, you know, because of the time, is like how much to invest in formal leadership training. You know, what would you recommend for you to get better at it, to develop more and more skills on that? So right now, we're going to move. We're going to be, you know, distributed into different breakout rooms. You can take that as part of, you know, a discussion, some of the questions that were left, or you can just network and, you know, have new questions now. So I will invite you to join whatever message you receive about the breakout room. Again, after 8 minutes, you're going to receive another notification coming back and go back to another room, and then we're gonna, you know, resume here on the main room. You will be, you know, for final words and how to access to the resources that were kindly shared by our panelists. So please now go ahead and accept and move to the breakout rooms that you are being assigned to.
Maria, I just want to say my